Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite passions is capturing things in a graphical form. It comes in the form of sketchnoting, doodling, graphic recording, graphic facilitation, and a whole bunch of different terms out there. You may have seen it or experienced it in your workplace or just in personal life. You've seen someone just kind of doodle something. I think I've been in a lot of events and conferences where I'm doodling either on my iPad or on a sheet of paper, and the person leans over and goes, "Hey, what's that?" And for me, it was a way of learning. I'm a visual person, and it wasn't until I learned to take my notes in a visual way that I started to remember things. And so why capture things visually? The majority of people, I think 70+%, are visual dominant. That's their primary method of simulating information. And in memory, just capturing things in a visual way, you retain things a little bit more. And when you do it in a group setting, there's a concept called group memory, and people start remembering things. Now today I'm going to be using my Neuland pens, markers. These are German markers. It has the ability to refill, so I have little bubbles that will pop in here and refill more ink. And I wanted to share with you just an introduction to this practice and 3 different practices that I see today and how they're differently used. So the first one we're going to talk today is called sketchnoting. Now, sketchnoting is simply someone that is an individual, and you're usually doing it in private. It's not necessarily being recorded, but you are capturing your ideas and notes and using different visuals to capture information. Now, sketchnoting is probably the easiest way to get into this practice because you're doing it by yourself. And so as an individual over here, you are just writing into your notebook. I use a notebook, it could be a sheet of paper, back of a napkin, simple things like that. So sketchnoting is one format. Now the other format, when you start doing it in large scale, so let's get a person here. And this person is now acting as a recorder. So we call it a graphic recording. And graphic recording, the graphic recorder, typically they're working either in a whiteboard, but we'll see them use 4x8 large panels, digital displays. There's just a lot of different ways people are starting to do that today. And what they're doing is they're sitting over here, and there's an audience typically. So that's a group of people. And this audience is, as they're talking, there's usually some sort of facilitator or a person that's running the meeting. And this graphic recorder will start capturing kind of what people are thinking. So in this case, and they'll use some sort of visual metaphor. So in this case, I have a sun. And in their mind, they have a template that's set up. They're thinking about, what am I going to think about next? How am I going to get things going? What kind of information is being captured? So the process, the role of the graphic recorder is to listen intently. So it's an incredibly hard practice because you have to listen while people here are talking about their topic, and it's usually a topic that you may or may not be an expert in. And so this person now is talking, and you are listening, and you're capturing things along the way. And what they also typically would be doing is distilling a lot of that information. So synthesizing, taking that information, and then capturing it in this format. Now I mentioned 3 different ways. The third approach, and this is my favorite, is called graphic facilitation. Now, graphic facilitation, I learned this practice at a company called The Grove. I think they got rid of the, but I learned it how they called it back in the day. But it's this organization in San Francisco, and they teach classes. And graphics facilitation is a combination of graphic recording, elements of sketchnoting. But instead of having a facilitator, the person In this case, the recorder is also the facilitator. And so what makes it incredibly hard is not only are you now delegating, you're not delegating the role of facilitation, you are the facilitator. But the beauty of this approach is the facilitator is the person that holds the pen and controls the conversation. And that allows that person a little bit more control. They get to drive the agenda. And so they drive the agenda and they drive where that meeting goes and ultimately where the graphic that's being recorded goes. They control all of it. In the case of the graphic recorder or graphic recording, in my world, I often get this request the most. People are asking me to, hey, you have the skill set, you're able to capture this information. We don't have that skill set, so can you come in and record it? Sure, I can definitely do that. But I'm actually a really good facilitator. I like running meetings, and so my preference is to do graphic facilitation, because if I can drive the conversation, I can drive the quality of this output here, versus if someone else, in this case of graphic recording, you have another person that's doing the facilitation, and that person controls it. And so sometimes you'll have a not so seasoned or not so experienced facilitator. They're not able to kind of drive the conversation, and then the graphic turns out poor. In the case, it's not really the graphic recorder's fault, but it's being driven by the facilitator here. And so why I like being the facilitator is I get to control and drive it, and I get to ultimately drive where things go. So I'm probably going to put this on speed ramp it up a little bit, but now I'm just going to do a little decoration. Give me a few seconds. So I went pretty slow. In the case of when I'm doing this kind of work, either graphic recording or facilitation, I'm doing this in between sessions. I'm doing it live, but usually what's happening is there will be a bathroom break or there'll be a little break. I get a chance to spend a little bit of time and kind of build some, add some decorations to the image just to make it look pretty. So today, let's do a little quick recap. We talked about 3 things. One, we talked about sketchnoting, and that's the concept of doodling, sitting and doing it by yourself. I love teaching people, and so with sketchnoting, I teach a class where you can learn how to do it yourself, and it's a self-practice. You practice doing it on your own in a private and safe space, and so that's one more method. I also do a little bit of graphic recording, and so this is when you have a meeting, you have a facilitator in place, you have participants, and you can spend a little bit of time getting me in depth and understanding what the topic is about, and I will work with you to kind of come up with a visual metaphor, and in real time as your meeting is going, we'll start populating this visual metaphor. Now, the longer the meeting, the more time I have to build this out. If it's an incredibly short meeting, like an hour or less, I'll probably pre-populate or pre-sketch out certain concepts, and then we'll fill it in with information. Now, finally, the piece I enjoy the most is if you want to drive an agenda, drive some sort of a project outcome, graphic facilitation. This is where I'm coming in and bringing in my project management skills, bringing in my skills as a change manager, as a consultant, and working with you and using the tools I have here to graphically record it and facilitate those meetings. Now, that is, and as I said earlier, that is my favorite method. I think this is the most effective. There are very few graphic facilitators in the world, but they are worth it because they're able to take information, portray it in a way people understand, and then distill it really quickly. So, hey, thanks for visiting my video. Definitely check it out, and I'll see you in the next one.